Hello everyone, and welcome to another Tamagotchi review video. This time we're going to be reviewing and taking a look at the Kamen Ridertchi, which is the Tamagotchi Nano and Kamen Rider collaboration for the Kamen Rider 50th anniversary. So it's basically what you'd expect from like every other Nano. It has the big screen with the big pixels and a character that evolves. So we'll just start up another save on this rather, because I have a very sad looking boy, and that's basically the character you start off with. You start off with a regular human. I was slightly worried that it'd be like the Kamen Rider Vital Bracelet crossover, where you would just have a kind of a weird looking random anonymous person who's just like a little silhouette or shadow of a man. But in this one, it's like a little character with goggles. I'm not super familiar with the characters in the show. I'm not sure if it's meant to be a human from any particular series, but he looks pretty cute. And in this starting animation, you can see that he gets goggles put on him, which, as we know from Digimon, makes you a protagonist. So we'll turn the sound on just so it's a little bit more interesting. The status is pressing C and he's sad because he doesn't have anything. And as we can see, like various other Tamagotchi Nanos, like the Demon Slayer one, instead of words, we have little icons. So we'll feed him. So the Kamen Rider Tamagotchi is similar to the Ridertchi in the way that it's got an absolutely huge roster. Though while the Ridertchi has you always start as the Saber type character, this one you can evolve into anything straight away from the Goggles kid. You don't have to hatch a certain class. Also, like the Ridertchi is something I'm not really sure is a good or a bad thing. It doesn't have those cute little animations that play every hour or so like the other Nanos do. And this is because there's such a big roster. There's obviously not enough space to have those little animations play every so often. So you don't get those animations. Now, while that's kind of sad that you don't get those cute little animations that are references to something that happens in the show or something that is common or popular to happen in the franchise, you do get a bigger roster as the trade-off. And the roster for the Kamen Ridertchi appears to be probably the biggest roster out of all the Tamagotchi Nanos, which is fairly cool. And but yeah, you just don't have those animations. Why I'm sometimes happy to not have those animations is that I have a lot of my Nanos on mute, because otherwise they're just constantly beeping, because you do get an alert beep every time there's an animation. And when you're running quite a few Nanos, you'll constantly get a little animation. And yeah, it's quite noisy. So yeah, we have the usual Nano allotment of games. We get two little small icons rather than big icons that show what the game is. So we've got the Rider Kick game, I believe it is, which is the typical button mashing game, which is always my favourite on the Nanos because it is the easiest. So you just button mash, and the only one it's hard on is the Molkachi, which I mentioned in that review video has the harder to press buttons. They are made out of the same thing, but they just feel less sensitive. The issue isn't here for the Kamen Ridertchi though. I believe this one is the obstacle dodge game, which is my least favourite, because when I'm using the lightbox I can't see the top of the screen because of how that indent is in the Kamen Rider screen. But it looks pretty good, the Nanos, and I'm a big fan of them having those big pixels. So the characters that you get are derived from which games you play, how many perfect games you play, the type of food, various other things that are pretty typical for the Tamagotchi Nanos. But yeah, big fan of the huge roster. And of course you can check the stats by pressing C. And as you can see, he's happier than we last checked the stats. But yes, that's basically all there is to the Kamen Ridertchi. A huge roster, but the payoff is you don't get the get the cute little animations, depending on how you feel about the animations. In terms of what I'm giving it for enjoyment and ease of use out of 10, the typical results for all of the Tamagotchi Nanos, which are 9 for enjoyment, 10 for ease of use. Again, I'm a big fan of the Tamagotchi Nano type virtual pet because they're not super demanding. You can kind of go about your day, still have them on mute, and check them a few times throughout the day and still get a perfect care character. They don't really require you to be looking at it constantly. They're fairly easy to use, and I recommend them for anyone who, one, has an interest in whatever franchise they're crossing over with, or anyone who has a slightly busy life, or just doesn't want to check a virtual pet multiple times an hour. Maybe they only want to check them a few times a day, and in that case, the Tamagotchi Nano is always right for you, especially if you're a fan of this franchise. I've only seen a few episodes of various seasons of Kamen Rider, and I enjoy it, but it's kind of like a show that I want to watch more of. But yeah, this is a pretty strong Tamagotchi Nano, probably one of my favourites, because the roster is just huge. It means you'll get less sick of it, but again, at the cost of not having those cute random animations that happen throughout the day, like you can see on the Molkarchi, which plays animations that are references to the show, and the Twisted Chi, which has them go to different classes depending on the time. And there's also the poo functionality, which is just like it is on the Demon Slayer Tamagotchi. You're fighting a bad guy. It's not an actual poo. It's actually only a poo on very few Tamagotchi Nano devices. Obviously the original Tamagotchi Nano and the Molkarchi, they do poo. But like with the Ridertchi and the Demon Slayer one, that's the one, you're just basically fighting a bad guy. On the Ridertchi, you're cleaning up LCL. On Demon Slayer Tamagotchi, you are fighting bad guys. And similar to that, you're fighting a bad guy as the poo that comes up. But anyway, that's a quick look and review at the Kamen Ridertchi. Did you get this Tamagotchi Nano? Let me know what you think about it in the comments. And of course, as always, I will see you on the next video. Bye!